mentioned, we are going to go through the Seaport NextGen Rolling Admissions 2 in this webinar. The slide deck will be available to you. So if I'm going too fast or there is a question, you can always ask at the end in the Q&A session, or later on even review the slide deck presentation and see if you have any questions. In that slide deck, you will find my email as well. So if you have any continuing technical questions about the Seaport NextGen, you can always email me, and I'll be glad and honored to respond to you. So with that, let's start. So let's first look at the agenda of this webinar. I'm going to go over the Seaport NextGen program as a whole. As you know, this is the admissions 2, so rolling admissions 2. So the original one was actually awarded in 2018-2019 period. So this is just an interim admission into that program. So I'm going to discuss the program as a whole, and then we'll go and dive into the admissions 2, the rolling admissions 2-1, which is the current solicitation that we are discussing. I will go into the proposal requirements then, whether you can test and gauge yourself, whether you have the eligibility or not. We will also discuss how the government is going to select, so the selection process. And then I will present some experience. So this is an experience sharing session. I will give you some win strategy ideas. And then we'll reach the Q&A session, and we can discuss any question, answer any questions that you might pose to me. So having said that, let me introduce myself very quickly. I won't go into the details. I have approximately over 30 years of proposal writing and capture management experience, specifically towards federal government. I'm also an expert on self-scoring. Of course, Seaport NextGen is not a self-scoring or score sheet or scorecard, as some people call it, type of proposal. It's considered a traditional type where you actually write. In self-scoring, you don't write anything. It's more towards what score you get regarding your past experience. But I am experiencing both, and my specific expertise in the defense, IT, and health sectors. So I've held a lot of webinars for APMP chapters as well as APEX, previously PTAC offices throughout the US. Having said that, let's start with the first topic, which is the Seaport NextGen program. So it was or is a multiple award government-wide acquisition contract. In other words, other agencies other than Navy can actually put orders under it. But we'll see that it's mostly Navy oriented, but it is allowed that other agencies use it. The portfolio value or the budget for this contract is $50 billion throughout the 10-year period of the contract. So you could say it's a $5 billion contract per year. Competition type is full and open, unrestricted. This means that there is no set aside for small business, but the majority of the companies that do have this contract are small businesses. So the government has not made any specific leeways for small businesses, but the way it has been structured is that it's very easy for small businesses to get on this. That's why, as I said, the majority of the companies are small businesses. If you're a large business, then there's a 20% subcontracting goal. So a lot of large businesses are using small businesses in this contract. So at the end of the day, when we go through this webinar, if you think that you're not eligible, you can always find other larger contractors and become their subs. So because this is a very good opportunity for the coming years. The period of performance is, it had a 5-year base and then a 5-year option. Now, since this was awarded in 2018 and started 2019, essentially we are past the first 5 years and they have started the option year. So it's going to go all the way till 2028. So once you get on this contract, your contract will be until 2028, and then they're probably going to have another Seaport full solicitation out for that period onwards. As far as the services or the domains that are used here, there are two main domains, and I'm going to go into the details of these, what they cover: engineering services and program management services. And we'll see that it covers a large number of sectors, actually. It's not just, very simple program management, from financials all the way to even marketing sort of services it covers. So I'm going to discuss those as well for you. So you'll see that a lot of companies can actually have a foothold on this Seaport contract. Now let's look at how it has been performing. So Seaport NextGen is not actually the first Seaport contract. Before that, there was a Seaport E contract. I think there was a Seaport without an E even before that. But at least from fiscal year 2012, Seaport E has been in the making. And you can see that it made approximately $5 billion each year. Some years even more. And then starting from late fiscal year 2019 and then into 2020, the blue columns are Seaport NextGen, because that's when Seaport NextGen performance started. So you can see that each year it's gotten larger, and obviously Seaport E was towards its end. So 2022 for Seaport E was the lowest, but at the same time, Seaport NextGen picked up. So let's look at, having said that, let's look at Seaport NextGen by itself as well. So when you look at the Seaport NextGen starting from 2019, you can see that it's been picking up. So in 2020, $1 billion spending, 2021, 2.3 billion, 2022, nearly 4 billion, and 2023, $5.5 billion. So it's a very healthy contract. It's one of the best contracts that Navy is using. So it's very healthy. It has a lot of task orders under it. And 2024 is, I've heard that it's even better than 2023, even though it shows smaller, but we are only, into a few months of 2024. So this is a healthy contract. What I want to convey is that this is a contract that you should go after. It's very important, and there's a lot of money into it. And although there are a lot of companies also who are awarded, competition is not as tough. The thing about Seaport, I should mention, as far as competition is concerned, is that the task orders do not show up in SAM, at least most of them. Once you're awarded this IDIQ, there is a portal for Seaport separate from SAM, and only those companies who are an IDIQ award owner, awardee, can actually participate. So although there are a large number of companies, but considering the large number of areas covered under Seaport NextGen, the competition is much less compared with, say, going after bids and solicitations from SAM. So that's another plus towards this. Now, moving forward, let's look at the socioeconomic spending during these years on Seaport NextGen. You can see, obviously, the largest portion is total small business, $14.4 billion. But you can see that the others, even though it shows small, but for example, disadvantaged small business or veteran-owned small business, one is $2.8 billion and the other is $2.6 billion. So since these are $1 billion, there are a lot. So even Alaska Native is, $500 million. So you can see that this is a very small business friendly contract. for small businesses. Obviously, for large businesses, there are a lot of opportunities as well. So that was the socioeconomic spending during these years under SeaPort, and it's expected that this is going to pick up even more. As far as the areas that this vehicle covers, you can see that 63% or $14.2 billion was spent towards IT, information technology, under this contract, but also professional services, 24%, research and development, 7%, defense and aerospace, 2%. But when we say, for example, research and development, 7%, is not very small, because the value is nearly $2 billion, $1.6 billion, if I should say. So these are not small figures, even though the graph might show them as small, but do assume that this is a very healthy contract for all these different categories. So having said that, let's now, what I wanted to convey is that this is a very healthy contract, and it's really something that if you're eligible, you should actually go for it. Now, having said that, let's start with this specific solicitation, which is called the Rolling Admissions 2. And I've put in the solicitation number, so in case you want to search for it on SAM, you can always download it. So it's by the Department of Navy. The Navy Sea Systems Command is the office that is going after this. It's a firm fixed price IDIQ. It's the second rolling admissions to Seaport NextGen. As mentioned, the total value is $50 billion for all contracts together. Set aside, it is not, it's a full and open, unrestricted, but as I mentioned, again, like the original Seaport NextGen, it is open for a lot of small businesses, because it's much easier compared with other vehicles to get on this vehicle. Number of awards, essentially, there is no limit, because once you do have the qualifications, you're accepted. So you're not competing against others, so that, you know, they say, hey, we're going to pick 100 companies, so you are either within those 100 and they compare you with the others or not. It's not like that. If you have the eligibility and you have, passed those requirements that the government says, you're automatically approved and you get the contract. And the contract duration, we've gone past the 5-year base. So essentially, we are in the option year. So it's going to go all the way to 2028. Now, in terms of the dates, the draft RFP was issued for this rolling admission on February 2nd, 2024. They held an industry day on 28th of March. Some of you might have participated. The full RFP issuance was April 9th. It was supposed to, the proposal was due on May 16th originally, but they extended it to June 16th. So we have approximately a month from now to prepare. But do note that you should not wait if you have not started on this already, whether you're doing it internally or outsourcing, it doesn't matter. It is late. You should go after it immediately, because even though it's a very small undertaking as far as the preparation of the proposal, but there are a lot of forms and small things that you have to cover. So you want to make sure that you have enough time, and compliance is also important. So you need to do reviews. Award date is September 1st, 2024, if they do not slip on that, as government sometimes does. So essentially, the dates, sources sought was in 2023. The RFP process is in 2024. Award and POP is 2024 till 2028. So these are the main dates for Seaport NextGen Rolling Admission 2. So now let's look at what does Seaport NextGen cover. And this is the areas that I mentioned that a lot of industries are covered under this vehicle. So the first, there are two main categories. First one is called engineering services, and this has 12 sub areas. And you want to make sure that you fit within one of these if you're going for engineering services. So First one is engineering, system engineering, safety and process engineering support. Second one is software engineering, development, programming, network support. Then you go into in-service engineering, fleet introduction, installation and checkout, and provisioning support. Measurement, facilities, range and instrumentation support, interoperability, test and evaluation, trials support, research and development support, obviously, which is usually within engineering, modeling, simulation and analysis, prototyping, pre-production, model making and fabrication support, system design documentation and technical data support, reliability, maintainability, and availability support, inactivation and disposal support, and biochemical engineering support. So you can see that even though it's called engineering services, it covers a large base of different types of work. Now, remember these. I'm going to come back to these when we discuss requirements, and I'll show you why. But first of all, as far as what the vehicle will cover, so the task orders, if you're awarded this under engineering services, the task orders that the government will issue and you want to compete on will be under one of these 12 areas. Now, the second major area is called program management services. Now, this is even more diverse than the first one. So let's go through what it covers. So financial analysis and budget support, quality assurance support, functional and direct programmatic administrative support, professional development and training support, so training and things like that go there, analytical and organizational assessment support, database administrators, public affairs and multimedia support. So this is all advertising, multimedia, and all that. Logistics support, this is a major area by itself. Configuration management support, information systems development, information assurance, and information technology support. This by itself is, again, a vast area. And then computer systems analysts. So you can see again that program management services covers 11 areas, and it covers a large number of sectors and basic, industries. Now, again, remember these. So if your experience falls under one of these, we are going to come back to these. So these were the two main areas. One is 12 subfactors, one is 11. So together, there are 23 subfactors under the SeaPort NextGen vehicle that they're going to issue task orders under, and you can actually compete against once you're awarded. Okay. Having said all of that, now let's see what are the proposal requirements. And from here on, you can see whether you're eligible or not and how you can actually prepare your proposal and so on. So first and foremost, and most important part is to be able to actually submit your proposal, you have to be registered in the SeaPort NextGen portal. It's a complete separate system from SAM and others. And if you're not registered there, you cannot submit your proposal, so you cannot get an award. So the first thing you want to do for preparation of the proposal and the requirements is that you must go into that website and register your company. And don't wait until the last day to do that. Do it right now. You should have done it already, because you might run into problems and then you wanted to contact their help desk. Now, if you download the RFP, and there are, if I'm not mistaken, 3 amendments to the RFP, all of them have a separate document that tells you exactly where to go, what is the link, how to actually register. So it's fairly easy, but I'm trying to make sure that you do this early. So if you run into any problems, you can actually contact their help desk and get it resolved. So that's the first thing you want to do. Now, having said that, now let's look at what the proposal should cover. So there are, first of all, 3 major forms. It's called J2, J3, and J4, or attachment J2, attachment J3, attachment J4. These are forms that you have to fill out. And then there is the technical proposal. So let me explain what these are. Form J2 or attachment J2 is the system for award management, SAM certifications. It's a form you fill out, and then the document naming convention you must adhere to. Make sure you don't make a mistake here. You can't name the documents that you're going to submit with your proposal anything you like. Must be in the way that they have said. So your company name, underscore, your cage code, underscore, and then the words SAM underscore certs. So that's how you name that document, that form, attachment J2. Now, these attachments are all part of the RFP. So when you download the RFP, these are there. You fill it up, and then we rename it in that convention. The second form, J3, is called Pre-Award Accounting System Questionnaire, J3, and then the naming convention, again, your company name, underscore, your cage code, underscore, and then accounting, underscore, sys, underscore, questionnaire. So that's the convention. Now, I'm going to go over these, what these are later on. I just want to give you an idea overall of what, excuse me, what the overall structure of the proposal is. The third form is called attachment J4, or the contractor information. Again, make sure that the naming convention is correct. Now, the main part of the proposal is the technical proposal and supporting documentation of experience. And this has 6 different areas. So I've put in the naming convention, so make sure that that naming convention for each of these 6 different documents is, and they must be separate, is adhered to. So first one is the cover letter. We'll go over what the content is. So cover letter, then signed SF33, then the actual technical proposal itself, then the experience supporting docs. We'll see that, you know, you have to show and prove that you actually performed a contract with the government. So here under experience supporting docs, you actually put, for example, your award document with the government, or if you're a sub, your contract with your prime. So proof that you actually had that contract. I'll go into details. I'll just give you an idea. Now, these 4, cover letter, SF33, technical proposal, and experience supporting docs, are mandatory for all types of businesses. So whether you're small or large, these 4 are mandatory. Now, if you're large, subcontracting plan, which is the 5th one, is mandatory. If you're small, you don't have to submit that. But if you're a large business, you have to provide a subcontracting plan. And I will, again, as I said, cover that later on. And then 6th one, which is, again, if applicable, not mandatory, is non-affiliate certificate. And I will explain what that is. This is regarding those companies that might be related somehow to the current Seaport NextGen awardees, to the current awardees. So these are the 6 documents that go under technical proposal. Now let's go into each of these separately. Since the technical proposal is the most important one, I will start with that. So category 5, technical proposal and supporting. So if you remember, there are 6 areas to this. I'm going to cover each of those. The first one, if you remember, was cover letter. So cover letter should identify all documents that you're actually putting in your proposal. So the cover letter must include a list of all the documents. It also references the solicitation number, so that solicitation number and the acknowledgement that it transmits an offer, that you're transmitting an offer in response to that solicitation number. So a statement saying that. Also, you need to put in your cage, UEI number, TIN, the government tax number, your business size, and any point of contact information for that proposal. You should mention that the proposal validity is 365, nothing less. Make sure that you actually mention 365. And then if you need to provide any certificates of non-affiliation to another Seaport NextGen Prime MAC holder, you put it here and you mention it here. This means that, for example, you are part of a JV, and that JV currently does have a NextGen, Seaport NextGen contract. If that's the case, and you're going solo now, but you're part of that JV, so you have some sort of an affiliation with the current prime MAC owner. If that is the case, and I'll cover that, but you have to mention it here. So that's cover letter. A second part of the technical proposal is the signed SF-33, which is usual with any proposal that you submit. You have to complete blocks 13 through 18, sign, and then return this with your proposal. Okay, now the third part is the actual technical proposal. And so let's discuss this. This is the most important part, and they're going to review your proposal based on this, obviously. You need to have a description. I'll read off of this because this is very important. A description of recent and relevant experience in one of the 23 functional area subcategories. This is why I said we will return back to those 23 areas. If you remember, there were 12 under engineering services and 11 under program management. Together, the total is 23. All you have to do to have is one contract that you have performed under one of these. You don't have to put in, multiple of these. One is enough. So now there are some relevancy and recency issues that you have to consider. So first, as far as the subject or the scope of the contract is concerned, it has to lie within one of those 23 functional areas or subcategories that we discussed previously. And you can always refer back to them if you download the presentation slide. But there are two requirements. One is that this contract must have been performed for one of the DoD, Department of Defense departments. That means the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Army, and all the sub-administrative agencies within DoD, like, for example, Defense Logistics Agency, Defense Transportation Agency, all of those that go under DoD, that's good enough. And obviously, it must lie within one of those 23 functional areas. So it doesn't have to be for Department of Navy. It has to be under any of the departments of the Department of Defense. So that's in terms of relevancy. Now, recency means that it has to have been performed within the last 10 years. So anything before 2014 is not acceptable. It has to be 2014 onwards. So these are the two requirements. First of all, 10 years recency, and then relevancy, meaning that one of those 23 functional areas done for one of the departments under the Department of Defense. And then good thing is that subcontracts are also accepted. So maybe you did for example, you had a prime who was working for the Air Force, and you were a subcontractor to that prime under a contract. That's acceptable. So that's a good thing. Now, worst case scenario, you don't have any contracts with the Department of Defense. Perhaps you worked with, I don't know, Homeland Security, you worked with Department of Education, whatever, doesn't matter. You cannot use your contracts. However, there is a loophole, or there is a opening that you can actually use, and that is, if you can argue that one of your senior personnel had experience with, for example, the Navy, worked with the Navy, for example, under acquisition, which is one of those 23 functional subcategories, then that's acceptable too. So for those companies who have not worked with the Department of Defense before, but have personnel that have worked with the Department of Defense, covering one of those 23 functional areas, you can actually use the past performance of that personnel and be accepted. So that's the good thing about this. Okay, so moving forward. So that's essentially the technical proposal. And then we go into those three forms. Systems for Award Management Certification, attachment J2. You fill out this form, but the good thing is that you don't have to actually fill out the section K reps and certs, which is usually sometimes used in other contracts. You have to fill out that section K and submit with your proposal. Here, you don't have to do that. Now, attachment J3, pre-award accounting system questionnaire. This is very important. Please listen well and then ask questions on it, because I think this is one of the good things about Seaport NextGen, and many companies are actually using this, and I'll explain why. There are three selections here that you take based on where you stand. Either you already have a DCAA approved accounting system, so you tick A here. So if your company has a DCAA approved accounting system, you're good to go. You tick that, and that's it. Now, B and C are important for those companies who don't have a DCAA accounting system. Now, approved accounting system. Now, what is that used? If you do not have, per government regulations, if you do not have a DCAA, which is a government agency, approved accounting system, the government cannot award to you a cost type task order. So the only type of task orders that you can go after are firm fixed prices. So you have to have a approved DCAA accounting system for the government to be able to provide you with a task order that is a cost type, like cost and time. You know, there are different types of these cost type contracts. So you're missing a lot of task orders under most of these vehicles. The firm fixed price type contracts are, I wouldn't say a fraction, but they're usually 25%, 30%. You're losing the rest. Now, usually, and here's the catch, here's the important part about Seaport. Usually, when a company wants DCAA to approve its accounting system, it has to make a request, and it's a long process. You know, you'll have to go into their queue. It's going to take a long process. The good thing about Seaport is that when you tick that B, and item B says our organization intends on proposing on cost type orders and will be requesting a DCAA audit, if you tick that, then you automatically are put in the queue that is given more attention by DCAA, and you can actually get your company approved, the accounting system approved by DCAA. So this is really important. To be honest, I've seen companies just participate in Seaport just to get that. They don't even want to continue with Seaport. What they want to do is they want a approved accounting system so they can use it with other vehicles. Now, I'm not saying that you should do that, but what I'm saying is that this is a very good opportunity for companies to get their accounting systems approved by the government. And this way, actually, a lot of task orders under this contract and many other contracts, many other contract vehicles are open to them. So if you can get your system, get your awarding accounting system together so that it can be approved by DCAA, by all means, tick B. And then sometimes you just don't want it right now, or your accounting system is not, you're sure that it won't be passed. So you take C. C says our organization does not intend to propose on cost type task orders and therefore does not need a DCAA accounting system audit. Now, one question might be, hey, my system is not ready, but I do want that B. I want DCAA, but my accounting system is not ready. Remember that, first of all, they are going to award in September. And also remember that awarding in September doesn't mean that September 2nd, you're going to get a letter from DCAA saying, hey, I'm going to come in and approve your system. It will take many, many months. So by that time, you can always prepare your accounting system. So I recommend to all companies that do not have a DCAA approved accounting system to actually tick B and then prepare themselves here. Okay, move forward. Subcontracting plan. As I mentioned, if you're a large business, then you have you need to have a present a subcontracting plan in which 20% of all subcontracted dollars must be to small businesses, and they've spelled out what that process is: 5% small disadvantage, 5% women-owned small business, 3% hub zones, and 3% STV OSB companies. So that's, if you're a large business, you must prepare that subcontracting plan. And then attachment J4, contractor information spreadsheet. You need to actually here, essentially, you want to present to the government what your team will be. Now, you don't have to present it. I mean, you might go solo, but it's good to have a team in place. But do remember, I should have said it previously, when I said that you have to present one contract, that contract cannot come from your team members. And when I say team, I mean prime sub relationship. So if you have a prime sub relationship with your team, then you cannot bring that one contract from your sub. So the scenario is like this. I'm a company who has not worked with DoD, but I have worked with other agencies, or I haven't worked with the government at all. But I'm a large company, or I'm in a strong company, and I bring this subcontractor. They have worked with the government. No, you cannot use their contract. You have to have that contract must come from you. So remember that you cannot use the contract from the prime sub relationship for that past performance that is required in the technical section. And then if you have a team and you want to introduce them, you have to give their name, address, their cage code, UEI number, and that sort of thing. So having said that, let's very briefly look at the selection process by the government. 1 minute, please, excuse me. Okay, so there's essentially a three-step process. First, they check for the completeness of the submission. So, for example, they want to make sure that all the forms are in place, naming is properly done, you've submitted it, so completeness of the submission, and you have that one contract. They're not going to check it at that stage. They just want to make sure that your contract submission or proposal is complete. Then once that's done and they read out what is incomplete, then they're going to look at the experience. Remember, we had to provide one contract performed within the last 10 years, covering one of those 23 sub areas, and must have been performed for the Department of Defense. So relevancy and recency, and they check that. Again, if they find out the contract that we have put in is for, say, 14 years ago, that's not acceptable, or is not relevant, that sort of thing. So once you pass that, if you're a large business, then they check that you have actually submitted your subcontracting plan as well, and they actually go through the subcontracting plan to make sure that it's a sound subcontracting plan. If you're a small business, they just check the usual responsibility. So they want to make sure that your company is correctly, has the SAM registration and all that information in place, and you're good to go. You're awarded. So you can see there's no competition in terms of comparing you with others. There's no pricing. That's the important thing. You don't submit any pricing. So your pricing is not compared. Your proposal, even the technical proposal, is not compared with others. Either you have it or you don't. So if you have it, you're awarded. That's it. So simple. So that's essentially the process that the government will go through. Now, let's look at the win strategy very quickly. Also, in content, either you have it and you win it. It's easy, or you don't have it. So from the beginning, you just know whether you can actually go for SeaPort or not. Now, some points to consider. Only one experience is needed. I did mention that two areas, there's engineering and program management or project management. You don't have to submit one for this and one for that. Decide which one you want to go after and submit one. If your business covers both, you have to decide. Take one of them and go for that. You cannot submit for both of them. As I mentioned, you can use the experience of individual employees as qualifying experience on behalf of the prime contractor. You can't use subcontractors for their experience or past performance. But remember that if you yourself perform the contract as a subcontractor, that's acceptable. But you can't bring in contracts from subcontractors. So prime sub relationships, even though you might have them as a team, but that doesn't count. And no pricing is obviously evaluated. Now, that's in content, not in form. So the format of the contract, of the proposal, if you have those requirements, then the main threat is that your proposal is not in the required format and is not compliant. So, the presentation is not done properly. That's why a compliance review is of utmost importance. So pay attention to details in form and format, in addition to the content. You don't want to, lose this contract because you didn't do something correctly as far as the proposal preparation is concerned. You might have all the requirements, but if you don't present it properly, then you're doomed. So make sure that you do reviews. And of course, right at the beginning, you need to do go, no-go initially. So you don't put energy, time, resources, money, anything like that into something that you cannot go after. And the most important thing is that one contract. That one contract within the past 10 years, one of those 23 areas, sub-areas, and for the Department of Defense. If you have that, you're good to go. And then writing, in terms of writing, the technical proposal, then it depends on your writing skills, how well you can actually showcase. Because sometimes, even those 23 areas are clear, sometimes your specific contracts might be very specific, and you have to actually relate what that contract is to one of those 23 areas. That's where your writing skills, your technical writing and all that, comes into place, because you have to showcase and provide concrete facts why that contract is in line. Okay, having said that, I will very quickly, I'm a little bit behind, go over, because I want to answer your questions. What our company can help you. I won't go into the details of our past decade of performance. We've had 226 wins in 2023 for the proposals that we have helped with our clients win, actually. But as far as SeaPort NextGen track record, we actually helped 23 small businesses and 3 large businesses get on the original SeaPort NextGen. So we are very familiar with it. They haven't changed much in terms of the requirements of the proposal. So we have a good experience, and we can always help you get on this vehicle. Now, having said that, how can we help you? We provide free consultation. And as I said, I will provide our email so you can actually communicate with us. And we will provide both by email consultation, as well as we can jump on a call, answer any questions that you might have. Then if you decide to go after this, and it's, to be honest, a little bit late, you should go after it immediately, decide whether you want to go after it or not. We provide full proposal development. We put a team, both a proposal manager, writer, as well as compliance team, to make sure that we can support you on all volumes, cradle to grave, and we do full and multiple reviews. Now, some companies write and prepare their proposals themselves. They have their teams. In that case, we can provide proposal review for them and strategy consultation towards that submission. So these are the services that we provide. And as a whole, our company has 4 different divisions: proposal development, capture management, support services, and training. And we provide, other than SeaPort, all these services to our clients in proposal development, full proposal development, eligibility and score assessment, reviews, staff augmentation. Sometimes you might just need one proposal writer or a SME or whatever. We provide full capture management, support services, usually for larger businesses, price to win, black hat, competitive intelligence, and then training, both proposal development and capture management. We provide specific training to our clients. And here I've put in my contact info and my colleagues' contact info. So if you have any questions, by all means, please email us or call, and we can answer any questions, technical questions, or if you want services, please contact Maroon, my colleague. I put in his email here too. Having said that, we reached the Q&A, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ab, for that thorough explanation. Okay, yeah, so we'll start going through some questions. Before we do that, a lot of people have been asking, will they receive a copy of the presentation? Yes, I will send that out to you so you can review it again, along with a link to the recording. Okay, first question is, can a state contract be acceptable if key personnel has a past performance with a Navy contract?
It's either this or that. So essentially what you do is either you have a contract with the Department of Defense or you don't. So for example, you have state contracts. That's not acceptable. So instead of that, then you what you present to the government is that, hey, I have a personnel that has worked with the Navy and this is his past performance. So you don't put both of them. You just put, if you have a contract with the Department of Defense, good enough. Then you don't have to provide any personnel past performance. But if you don't have that, then you only provide personnel past performance. Over.
Okay, thank you. Can you be a team member as a sub under a prime and also submit to be a prime?
If yes, so you can be part of a team and then submit as a prime. The rule they have is that one company cannot have more than one contract under the Seaport NextGen. Now, when you're a subcontractor to a prime, you're not, you don't have the contract, so you're not considered one of the awardees. So yes, you can have, you can be part of a team, and then you can have a separate contract awarded to your company. However, if you're a part of a team as a JV, then that's a no-no, because you cannot be part of a team as a JV, because then you are actually awarded. So you can't have a situation in which you are part of a JV, you have one contract, and then you submit another proposal as a solo, standalone contractor. That's not acceptable. Over.
Okay. Is there a specific time frame from which the individual employee performance must have been performed?
The same requirement, 10 years. So anything within the past 10 years is acceptable.
Okay. This next question is, what if you have a NASA contract where NASA is working directly with the Department of Navy?
No, the contract itself must be with one of the DoD departments. Now, if you had personnel that worked, you can perhaps use the personnel that you had in that contract with NASA, who are working with the Navy. Then they have past performance working with the Navy, essentially. That's acceptable. But no, a NASA contract, even though it might be towards the Navy, is not acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, to clarify, is it only Navy incumbents that may pursue the Seaport NxG?
Okay, first, if you're an incumbent, so if you're already on Seaport NextGen, you don't have to participate at all. This is for new companies who want to jump on the vehicle. So if a company already has a contract under Seaport NextGen, their contract will go all the way to 2028. They do not have to participate. So this is for new companies. Now, new companies do not have to be, have to have a contract with the Navy itself. They have to have a contract with one of the departments under the Department of Defense, which Navy is one. But say you have a contract with the Army, that's acceptable. It just has to rely, tie in with one of those 23 areas.
Thank you. Next question is, are there any requirements for 8A firms to participate?
No, so you can participate, obviously, but there's no set aside or requirements currently under Seaport. That graph that I showed you, it's just afterwards, how many 8A companies, for example, got awarded. But right now, to get on the contract, there's no set aside for 8As or any of the small businesses. But later on, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the government has an open hand, so they might actually issue a task order and say this is only for 8A companies, or even under Seaport vehicle, they can actually sole source to 8As if they want. So all of that is allowed.
My firm did a lot of work for the US Coast Guard. Is that acceptable for past performance?
Yes, it is. Of course, your son must be an employee of the company. If you can show that he's a, for example, one of the senior level employees of the company, not even senior, but I mean, being a senior is better, then it's acceptable. Yes.
Okay. And then there's some people asking a question about the DON purposes. Does your DoD experience contract have to also support Navy in some way? Do we have to demonstrate that, or would solely DoD without any tie to Navy suffice?
Okay, no, it doesn't have to cover, I mean, the actual scope of that contract that you're showing. Say you have a contract with the Army or with the Marines, whatever, and you did acquisition work or some sort of a financial work for them. It doesn't have to have, covered, say, anything with the Navy. However, what they mean is that it has to tie in with those 23 requirements that the Navy has. So you can't say, hey, I did a construction work for the Army, so I should get in. No, construction is not one of those 23 areas. When they say tie in with the DON, the Department of Navy, it means that it has to be one of those 23 requirements of the DON. Of course, when you're explaining, and this is part of that skill I mentioned in writing your past performance, you have to do mention that, hey, for example, we did acquisition work, we did financial work, and explain this, how this actually is one of those requirements of the Department of Navy. But the actual work itself does not, have to tie in with actual Department of Navy work. So you worked for the Army, it had nothing to do with the Navy, that's fine. The scope of the work, the type of the work is important, whether it can actually tie in with the requirements that the Navy has under those 23 items.
Okay. Next question, is there a facility clearance requirement?
No, none. So you don't need any facility clearance here.
Okay.
Good question. Sorry, I did want to mention one thing. One of the other opportunities that you might have under Seaport is that I've seen many companies, small businesses especially, who are after secret or top secret security clearance. What they do is they jump on this vehicle and then start being a team with others and with large companies, I mean. And when they do that, they can very quickly get through that large company their secret or top secret clearance. So if you're going after secret or top secret clearance, Seaport NextGen is one of those areas that is very good the process is quicker in compared with other vehicles. Over.
Okay, our next question is, if you win in engineering, are you also eligible for program management task orders?
Very good question. They're not very clear on that so far, but it seems that it's going to be different. They have not specifically said that they're not going to allow you. But what they have said is that you cannot go for both. So your submission cannot go for both engineering and program management. You have to decide one of them. Whether you actually can, then when the task orders come out, go after both is not very clear, or maybe I'm not clear. I do not know the answer to that.
Okay, thanks. The last question we have time for is, can current Seaport primes add new subs to their contract during this rolling period?
They don't need to do that now. They can always, at the task order level, they can always bring in new team members. So for a specific task order, they might, they will tell the government, hey, this is part of our team. And if the contracting officer accepts it, that's it. So it's not, it's irrelevant to this admission, rolling admission. So you can always approach large businesses, or even small businesses, stronger small businesses, and become part of their team. If the contracting officer accepts, that's it. You're good to go. So this rolling admission is for you as a small business to actually be a prime contractor towards the Seaport NextGen.
Okay, thank you. I think we got most of the questions. Obviously, we couldn't get to every single one. And if people still have a couple of questions, can they email you, Ab?
Of course, by all means, and I'll try to answer immediately.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this presentation. We had a great turnout today, 60 people on the call. So hopefully some of you will be able to engage with this opportunity. Thank you for your great questions. I will be sending you the recording and the slides shortly. And we hope to see you at a future Maryland Apex Accelerator event. Thanks, Ab. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.